The fundamentals of human design are that we're all different, and no one else can tell us what is best for us, right? We are all our own personal authorities. And so there's something very, if people look at it from the outside and they're like, what is this weird culty thing? It's like, nah, like the very crux of this, the very core nugget of human design is that you are your own authority and no one else can tell you who you are or what is correct for you. So this is just information.
Mm-hmm.
And it's up to all of us to go play around and experiment with it.
Welcome to the Casual Temple. This week, our most awesome guest is Noelle O'Reilly, who is a human design guide for my favorite place in the world, Seattle. Noelle has a special talent for translating the complex language of human design into simple, actionable steps. She works with individuals, couples, and families, and especially enjoys helping parents understand their children's designs. As an emotional projector with a 4/6 profile, Noelle offers practical tools for making decisions, accessing intuition, and discovering life's purpose through human design. No small feat. So Noelle, it's so lovely to have you here at the Casual Temple.
Thank you so much for having me, Merrily. I'm happy to be here.
Yay, thank you. Yes. Oh, yeah, I am so excited to talk about human design. It's something that I bring up in pretty much any conversation where it even has a whisper of woo. I try to bring it up. So yeah, it's become really popular. So excited to talk about it.
It's definitely having a bit of a moment. I think, like so many things so many of the topics that you get into on your podcast, yeah, there's a moment where things that were maybe a little more obscure are becoming more mainstream, which is wonderful.
Yes, I love that. Well, we just kind of usually start wherever you think your path started with sort of human design and where you're at today. Would love to learn more about that.
Absolutely. I guess I'll start by saying that I didn't expect to be here. I didn't expect that this would be what I would be doing professionally, but it's also not so wild. Like, it's not so unexpected. I grew up in a family I grew up in Northern California mostly, and in a family that was very open to all of these kinds of things. Like, you wouldn't know it from looking at my parents from the outside, but like you wouldn't be like, oh, that's a family that has a family astrologer. And, like my first set of tarot cards came from my mom when I was a kid and things like that. So there's definitely an openness to a lot of the maybe more alternative spiritual practices, I guess I should say. Not that human design is a spiritual practice. It's not. But I guess what I mean is that, so I didn't grow up with human design.
Yeah.
So I came across it first when I was in my early 20s. I think it was 2008. A family friend, I was on a road trip and I stopped at her house to stay. And she had this stack of charts that she had printed out for my whole family and started telling me about the designs of everyone in my family. And I thought, oh, wow, this is cool. This is interesting. But it didn't, I'd be lying if I said it changed my life in that moment. It absolutely didn't.
Right.
And I just thought, okay. And then went on my merry way. And then it was years went by before it really crossed my path again. And at that point, it really did start to change my life. It took a while for all of the information. Human design can be quite dense and lingo heavy. And there was a while where I was like, this feels interesting and cool and right, but the information didn't really have a place to land in me, if you will. Like, I didn't quite know what to make of it. And then as soon as that shifted, all of my sort of personal stuff, all of my struggles, all of the things that in myself that I was fighting against are so completely and clearly reflected in my human design chart. And once I sort of realized that, I just became really interested in learning the system, and I was kind of off to the races and then spent the next years studying, just really diving in and trying to learn everything I could. First through self-study and then with various teachers. And that was really all for my own benefit. It was really just like, oh, this is helpful to me and this is useful
Mm-hmm.
to my family. And it was impacting my relationships in such a positive way. And then it got to the point where I was giving readings for friends just for fun, and then it turned into friends of friends and friends and friends of friends, and I was like, this is taking up a lot of my time. I should probably do this as a business. So
Yeah.
that's where I am now.
Wow, cool. Yeah, I love that you mentioned that it's I think I'm paraphrasing you, that I heard it just a moment ago, but
Yeah,
it's basically, learning something about yourself that you maybe felt like it was a negative in comparison to what is the norm of
absolutely.
society. Yeah, and I know we talked about that because you were so great and gave me a really wonderful, very in-depth reading, an hour and a half. So, and I know we could have gone even deeper than that because it's
Yeah.
so complex. Yeah, that was the first thing that attracted me to human design was I heard about it from a friend, did my chart, and I was like, seems interesting. But it seems like it's gonna take a while to really understand it. So let it sit for a while and came back. And then I was like, oh wow, this really talks about like how I express my energy and how I take energy and process it. And makes me feel not bad about how I do it because the
Yeah.
way I do it as a manifesting generator is not normal
No,
and is against the norm. So yeah, like that you brought that up.
it really is. At its core, human design is about self-acceptance. And
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a really radical self-acceptance. It's acknowledging that we are all totally unique and
Mm-hmm.
singular, and that our way of operating, all of the things that we tend to look at as flaws, are most often differences, right? We
Yeah.
tend to see differences, see our own differences as flaws, as bugs. And human design is really about reorienting you to what is native to you, what
Mm-hmm.
is innate in you, and celebrating those things as gifts or as, it's a feature, not a bug,
Yeah.
right? And it really helps you identify, like, oh, is this me or is this something I've picked up?
Mm.
Um, and there's nothing you need to do in human design, right? There's nothing, it's not about, it's funny to be in this role professionally. I feel like so many human design, like if this were a book, it would probably show up in the spirituality section or the self-help
Mm-hmm.
section. And I sort of famously amongst my friends have no interest in those sections of the bookstore. I like can't bring myself to read a self-help book for the most part.
Right.
Um, because it doesn't, but this doesn't feel quite like that, even though it does help the self. It's really, you aren't doing anything. You're not trying to improve yourself here. You're just letting go of the things that were never yours to begin with. So it's not about self improvement, it's about removing and just
Yeah.
getting back to what is sort of your core essence.
Yeah. Like kind of before you're programmed by society or your family or your friends and all the groups you're in. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
We all are really deeply conditioned by, our schooling, our family, our friends, our culture.
Hmm.
And there's no way around that. That's not
Yeah.
a bad thing necessarily. It just
Hmm.
is. But figuring out which reactions you have, which beliefs you hold, which attitudes, which stories are conditioning, and which are yours is
Hmm.
really can be feel a lot more tricky than it seems from the outside.
Yeah.
And that's usually where I encounter people, where
Yeah.
people are saying, "Oh, I I feel this about myself, but I'm fighting it."
Right.
Yeah,
Yes. Yeah, the fighting, for sure. Yeah, because something I think we also talked about in my own practice, I do sort of magic-y practices and stuff like that. But a lot of that is the sort of know thyself tenant. And
yeah,
I do think that human design is so good at that. because you can see it, you see the architecture of who you are, and you go, does that sound right? I think it
Yeah,
does, or however that works for you.
totally.
Yeah.
I think, what human design does is it gives you a map of your energy system.
Mm-hmm.
And it is at its core, it's a mechanical system, right? It's not a belief system. It's not a
Right.
religion. It's not a spiritual practice. It's really just giving you the blueprint of you and
Mm-hmm.
saying, look, this is how you exchange energy with the world. And there are there's an element too. It gives you the blueprint, but it also gives you the user manual, like the
Yeah.
basic user manual, where it's most of us, if we're I like using vehicle metaphors for this. Like if you are a sailboat who has only ever gotten the user manual for a helicopter, you're probably feeling pretty bad about yourself most days, right? So human design is just saying, oh, you're not a helicopter, you're a sailboat. Here are the basics of how to harness the wind, go, play around, be free. But a sailboat is not better than a helicopter. It's not worse than a helicopter. Nothing in human design is good or bad. Everything is neutral. Everything just is. So it's really just about, oh, this is what I was born with. How can I get back to that? How can I harness that? As opposed to, oh, I was born with these gifts, but I don't really trust that those are gifts. So I'm going to go chase after these other things that society is telling me are the real gifts that one should have.
Right.
It's trying to be something you're not, right?
Yeah.
It's the fish trying to climb a tree or whatever that
Right.
metaphor is.
Like, how's that gonna work?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think a lot of times, because you're so great in your reading, because you will say like, so what do have you experienced or what's your experience with that?
Yeah.
And I would say like 90% of the time it's like, oh yeah, I remember doing X as a kid, right? Like
Yes.
way before all of the other stuff came piled on top of you. And
Totally.
so it's kind of like rediscovering who that pure kid was, right? And reconnect with that person, that little child. Yeah.
Absolutely. I feel like that's a really common experience where we either remember a version of ourselves, a younger self that was naturally doing that,
Yeah.
or sometimes people, I don't know, people are at all different places. Sometimes people think, oh, I've always been trying to do that, or that's my natural impulse, but I didn't think that was okay.
Right.
Um, and other times people feel really like, oh no, I know that's true about me, but they're all versions of sort of, I was told this wasn't okay. I observed that this wasn't okay to be this
Mm.
way. Or I just haven't trusted that. But yeah, very often people do have some sense that, yeah, this is true about me. I
Hmm.
just feel like I had the permission to think that
Yes.
way or operate that way.
Yes. Ugh. Yeah, for sure.
I know, it's so real. It's so
It's like,
real.
oh my gosh. A previous guest I had on who's wonderful is Paul Newell, and he and I like geeked out because he's also a manifesting
Oh,
generator.
nice.
And we were exchanging a little bit about being manifesting generator, and like the thing is with that is a lot of interests and a lot of sort of your gut fingers and all sorts of pots, and you're
Yep.
kind of which isn't necessarily like the way, at least in the Western American culture. It's like, no, you have one thing and you do the one thing.
Stick with it. Like
Stick
no
with it.
quitting. Yep.
Yes. Yeah. And we were both just like laughing about how, I mean, there is an aspect of that, but it's like, but we also have all these other things going on. So it's very funny.
It's really wonderful when people it's wonderful to have those moments where people say, well, yeah, like the manifesting generators where
Hmm.
they're saying, oh, well, yeah, I do move on from things really quickly, or I do have all of these different interests, and
Yeah.
oh, I'm so scattered, I'm so sort of, I have no follow through, and instead flipping that, and it's like, hey, this is not a bug. Like this is a
Hmm.
feature of you. You are designed to follow your interests and let your gut lead you to what is the next interesting thing. It's not that
Right.
you're a shiny, like chasing a shiny object. You're not like some sort of uncontrollable little creature following a shiny object. It's like, no, you are designed to let your gut orient you and pivot constantly to what is interesting. And it usually for manifesting generators does look like moving
Hmm.
from one thing to the next. And then
Yeah.
sometimes they circle back. But you all are really here to show us that there isn't one way to do things. There's not a linear path. And what a gift. Like from, I feel like it's whenever I'm talking to friends in human design and you're talking about the types that aren't you.
Mm.
My sister and I were just talking about manifesting generators, and she was like, God, I'm obsessed with them. They're so cool. like, like they're so interesting. Like, wow, they're so, and it's so easy from the outside to
Mm. Oh, right.
look at, look at other people and think, wow, that's cool the way they do things. But
Yeah.
when you're in it, it's just, we're very often weighted down by the negative narrative. Yeah, like, oh, I
Hmm.
don't stick with things, and why can't I
Yeah.
focus? And it's
Right.
like, no, no, stop that.
I know it's struggle. If you've you're trying to relearn, that
It
it's
takes time.
okay. Yeah.
It takes
That it's a
time.
feature. So, and
It's
to have
a
fun with
feature.
it.
Yeah, yeah,
So I did want to talk a little bit about, because I did look into, and I think we sort of in our pre chat before talked
yeah.
about the actual origins of human design, which is pretty woo. And I think it's awesome though.
It
So
is definitely a wild story.
yes, would you mind
So,
sharing about it?
absolutely. So, the origin story of human design is pretty out there. There's a guy named Robert Allen Krakauer. He's Canadian. He worked in media in Quebec. And in the 80s, he basically, from one day to the next, like left his life. He just kind of up and pieced out, dropped out of his life in Canada. And he ended up living in Ibiza. He moved to Ibiza and was living, I think, kind of as like a wild man. um, and at a certain point, he had this really intense experience where he was going back home one night, and he was living in this kind of, I think, old stone, I don't know what the word is, sort of cottage, if you will. And he walked in, and he was basically, what's the word, almost invaded. Like he was
Mhm.
consumed by this presence inside of him. And he called it the voice. After the fact, he referred to it as the voice. So basically, the voice is all of a sudden inside of him, and he said, are you ready to work? And for the next 8 days, he basically transcribed the human design system. And it wasn't like a cool, like visitation, like chill visitation.
Right.
It was like this really physically demanding,
Mm.
I think, kind of terrifying experience. And he emerged from it with just all of this information, like with the basics of this system.
Wow.
And that's the origin of human design. And he basically, from there, I think it took him a while to sort of process what had happened. But a few years later, began teaching about it. And
Hmm.
he spent the rest of his life, he died, 2011, 2012. He spent the rest of his life teaching human design. And it's a pretty wild story. And I think he very much acknowledged, look, this is madness. This is I am mad. He said those things. Um, but what's cool about human design, I feel like that story is probably not a big lift for most of your listeners, because I feel like if you're
Mm-mm.
listening to this podcast,
Yeah.
you're like, the idea of a channeled system is probably not a big lift.
Hmm.
Um, but I always like to tell people, if it comes up, that you don't have to care about that story at
Right.
all, right? Like, human design is not a religion. You don't have to, it's not a belief system. Ra-Uru-Hu is not a guru. Oh, by one detail is that Robert Allen Krakauer had changed his name to Ra-Uru-Hu, which,
Right.
fits the picture sometimes of people being like, what the hell is this? Um, but yeah, so you don't have to care about Ra. He basically was a sort of a messenger or a vehicle for this information. And he said really explicitly, look, this is an experiment. I'm not a guru. I'm not looking for followers. I'm just a teacher. I have this information. I'm here to give it away.
Mm-hmm.
And it's your job, to whoever was listening, to take in this information and go experiment. The fundamentals of human design are that we're all different and no one else can tell us what is best for us, right? We are all our own personal authorities. And so there's something very, if people look at it from the outside and they're like, what is this weird culty thing? It's like, no, like the very crux of this, the very core nugget of human design is that you are your own authority and no one else can tell you who you are or what is correct for you. So this is just information. And
Mm-hmm.
it's up to all of us to go play around and experiment with it. But
Yeah.
in my personal experience, and I think in the experience of so many people around me, when you do integrate it, it makes things a lot easier. The vehicle tends to operate a lot more easily when you're using the right manual, right? With
Mm-hmm.
the sailboat manual as opposed to the helicopter manual.
Yes.
Things get easier. Things are more fun.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah.
And I like that it's like, well, Ra's philosophy and then sort of the philosophy of human design is it is an experiment.
Yeah.
You can step in and step out like I did when I first saw it. I was like, seems interesting, but I'll look at it later kind of thing.
Totally.
Um, but yeah, it's yeah, very cool. I
I like
love
to say, I like to say too that like you don't need human design. Like
yeah.
I love human design. I am obsessed with human design and find
Right.
it so deeply useful, obviously.
Right.
But nobody needs this. Like
Yeah.
there are plenty of people who are, like you said, we are instinctually know certain things about ourselves, right?
Hmm.
What a human design chart does is most of the time it's reflecting that back to you. You say, "Oh
Right.
yeah, I do know that about myself." But if you're already instinctually doing this stuff, like if things are going well, if you feel good, great. You don't need this. But when people get stuck or feel like they are far away from who they are or who they're meant to be,
Hmm.
that's when it's really useful.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yes, I can agree with that for sure. Any sort of anything that helps with that, like astrology can do that for people for sure. Or like reading the tarot, any of these things can kind of get you in that same vein. Um,
they're
but I
tools.
think is so cool about human design is it kind of takes away like I love astrology because I love archetypes and symbols and that kind
Yeah,
of thing. But like I think this is from my perspective, that a lot of people maybe aren't as enmeshed with that.
yeah.
Whereas human design is more kind of modern and like literally like a manual. It's like kind of technical.
It is. It's highly
Yeah.
technical.
Yeah.
It's very mechanical.
Yeah.
It's basically an explanation of the mechanics in your body of how energy is working. And so I
Hmm.
think there's something really it does straddle multiple things. It's like
Yeah.
most people who first get into it tend to be people who are into astrology or any of these other sort of systems. But there are there are a surprising number of people that I've talked to who say things like, I'm not into astrology, but
Right.
everything you're telling me is right on.
Yeah.
And I think that there's a way, because it's so mechanical and
Hmm.
technical, it really does have the power to appeal to people who, quote unquote, aren't into astrology or aren't
Yeah.
into the woo woo, where it's just like, hey, oh, okay, I can do this. I can listen to these sort of guidelines about how to best use my energy. And then they feel their life changing. And so they're like, I don't know how it works. I'm like, don't worry about it. You don't have to worry. Don't worry about the origin story. You don't have to worry about the planets, right? You can just hear these basic pillars of human
Hmm.
design and your chart and your energy type
Right.
and be off to the races. But I'm
Yeah.
with you. It's I love the woo stuff. I could
Yeah.
listen to all of that stuff.
Right.
Um, but you don't have to be interested in this or to benefit from it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, great explanation. So with that, for your own sort of knowledge and learning about human design, was it all like self-study, or were there any particular teachers that you looked at or anything like that?
Yeah, so it started I first had, so I was starting to read about it, I got a reading that was okay, where I sort of, was having this sense, oh, there's really something to this, but I don't, like I was saying, the information didn't really like land or take root in me.
Mm-hmm.
Then I had my really pivotal moment with human design came when a friend who had become really fluent in human design sat me down, and she explained all of the basic mechanics of the chart, right? Like just how the chart functions, how the body graph works, how everything is connected. And it was such a revelatory experience. All of a sudden, all these sort of pieces that had been floating around, where I was like, yeah, okay, I don't really know what this means, were all of a sudden just like almost fell into place and locked in inside of me, is what it felt like. I was like, oh, I completely understand this now.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think I did, I did a reading for a friend of mine right after that, like 2 days later. And she was like, whoa, wait, like you could do this professionally. And I was like, well, no, I literally just learned about this. But when I think back to that reading years ago, I stand by it. Like I
Yeah.
was, there's a lot I didn't know at that point, but just having a basic understanding of the fundamentals and how everything was connected, all of a sudden I just sort of felt like I knew I knew where to look. I knew how to interpret. It was like I'd been given the basic translation, right? I like had the intro dictionary. So yeah, so huge gratitude to my friend Nadia Quinn for doing that.
Oh.
And from there, it was really self-study for quite a long time,
Mm-hmm.
and just reading everything I could get my hands on. And then I eventually did start studying with various teachers, and there's a lot there's a lot of human design stuff on the internet. There's a lot that's available, I should
Yeah.
say.
Mm-hmm.
And can be a little bit hard to know when you're, on social media or YouTube or whatever, like what is legit. And I think there's a really wonderful thing happening right now where it is becoming more mainstream,
Mm-hmm.
and that involves translating some of the language into things that are a little bit more, I don't know, accessible. Some
Yeah.
of the language of sort of the original human design system can be pretty activating, or like
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of words that feel kind of unflattering and people freak out about.
Yeah.
You have sort of, I don't want to say purists, but you have people who are really devoted to preserving the way that the information first came into the world
Mm-hmm.
via Ra or Uhu. And
Yeah.
then you have a lot of people being like, you know what? I want people to understand this. I'm going to change this name and call it something else.
Yeah.
And so, I feel pretty agnostic. I think there's a place for all of that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
As people are looking into it or studying, I know there can be this sort of, it can be hard to understand what stuff online is legit. So going back to the source material, I'm a details person. Of course, this is in my human design chart. I'm also a projector. We're really natural students, and really part of what projectors are here to do is understand systems, become expert in a system, and which feels pretty on the nose for me with learning this system. So I was really interested in, reading the sort of original manual of human design, and getting into the video. There's a lot of videos of Ra online that people can find where he's talking about the system. But there's also a lot of people who are maybe more appealing.
Mm.
And I really encourage people to use their own gauge of what is interesting
Mhm.
when they find people to study from, right?
Yeah.
Again, the whole point of this is that you are your own authority. And
Right.
so there's no point in saying, oh, if you're learning about human design, you have to be only studying with the official people who studied under Ra. Like, no, if you want to, if your authority, if your inner authority is telling you to go study with somebody else, do that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, very cool. Yeah, I like the reminder about like inner authority because I think that's a new, especially, yeah, here I'm gonna go again more in sort of the woo of like the new age of Aquarius. It's very much about like not the guru mentality of the age of Pisces, right? Where you have like a leader or a paternal figure that you're following. It's like now it's the collective, but that also means you, the individual, has a lot of responsibility with that and like um being your own authority, like you said.
I
So,
think that's yes, completely. And I think
mhm.
sometimes people look at the outside of human design and they think, okay, white guy,
Right.
older white man,
Yes, yes.
like, leading, and it looks like something from the outside, like, oh, it looks like
Right.
there's this guru in the middle of this.
Yeah.
But actually, that's not at all what's going on. It's like, okay, yeah, the guy this came through is an older white man. And, but the fundamental teaching here is don't listen to me.
Hmm.
What do you think? Like, what is your body saying?
Yeah.
Right? Like,
Yeah.
who are you? It's all about, I mean, human design calls itself the science of differentiation, right? It's all
Mm.
about the individual being the individual. And
Hmm.
that is what benefits our collective world the most is that when we are all living up to our own personal potential
Yeah.
and offering the gifts that are linked to that with the world,
Hmm.
that's where everybody is best served when we're paying attention to who we are as individuals and what we need and what we have to offer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think also with that, because it took me when looking into human design, you actually kind of have to look, at least for me, when I was like looking, I was like, where did this even come from? And you have to kind of look for it, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
Yeah.
And then it's not called like Ra's human design. You know what I mean? It
Oh,
doesn't, it's not like there's a person immediately stamped onto it. I had to look a little bit to
yeah.
figure it out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, it's which I think is how it's supposed to be, right? It's
yeah,
like
I think so too.
he was the vehicle, or the messenger, if you will, but it's
Hmm.
not about him at all. It's
Yeah.
about just again this mechanical information about how you work in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, so good. I love it. So I did talk a little bit about because you again, we did a session together. It was really great. But how would you explain that you sort of run a session with somebody and
Sure.
your approach to it?
Sure. So people find me online, however they do. So they book on my website, and when they do, they give me their birth information. So their birth time, their birthplace, their birth date. And I usually also ask if there's anything else they want me to know, like anything sometimes people come to me and they're really wanting to know help figure out job stuff, or
Mm,
they're in a certain place in their life that feels relevant to mention.
yeah.
But then I pull up their charts. I like to sit with them for a while, just have them, I just kind of keep them in the back of my mind for a while before I do a reading. And then I meet with them online, like via Zoom, and I interpret the chart for you. So what I usually do is, and we can maybe next we can I can explain sort of an overview of all of the pieces of human design.
Yeah.
Um, but so in a session, in a foundational sort of intro session, I do 90 minutes, and I explain how the chart works. Right. So I'm explaining all of the centers in the body. I'm telling you about your energy type. I'm telling you about the major pillars of human design, which are your strategy for operating in the world, like your basic operating instructions. I get into your authority, which is how you best make decisions. I go through and explain all of the centers in the body and how they show up for you. we're all a combination generally of defined centers, which are places where we are making energy and consistently beaming that energy out into the world, right? Where we sort of have consistent energy in some places. And then there are other places where we have inconsistent energy, where we're really taking in energy from the world around us. And so I'll go through the centers. We'll talk about what you've got going on in terms of your definition, how you're taking energy in, where you're taking energy in, how that can show up for people. And sometimes that means I'll be sort of dipping into talking about channels. Those are the ways that centers are connected in the body graph. And people sometimes have a lot of questions and a lot of anecdotes they want to share. And sometimes people are just wanting to take in information and they hardly say a word. So it really depends on you and sort of what you're interested in. But after that, if we have time, we go into profile, which is sort of your role in the world. It's kind of your archetype. And then if we have time, we go into incarnation cross, which is really your life theme. And it really speaks to your purpose in life. And that's generally a 90-minute session. And then if people are really interested and want to know more, I do follow-up sessions, usually for an hour. And those can look like a lot of different things. Sometimes people come back to me wanting to know more about the channels and gates and just sort of going into the next layer of the chart. Sometimes people want to know about what are called the 4 transformations, or the arrows that are up by the head. That gets into things like how you best digest food, what environments are most supportive for you, the lens through which you view the world, what motivates you. There's a lot of really granular information in human design. And I mean, we could talk about your chart for months and months,
Yeah.
but it's a lot of information right at the beginning. And my goal in a session is really for people to leave with just a basic understanding of their own energy mechanics, and also to know what they're looking at when they're looking at their body graph, so that then if they want to go, follow a bunch of human design accounts on Instagram or whatever, they can see something and go, oh, I have that. Oh, that's not me. Oh, that is me, right? That they have a sense of what people are talking about.
Yeah.
That makes sense?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
And I think the beauty of, because I probably like most people, there's a lot of really great, like free information about human design. You can put your
There is.
chart in a lot of places online and get like the whole business and look things up. But I think what was really great about you and like sitting with you is like having, I put it like this way. It's like having a storyteller tell you the story of you while you're sitting
Mm.
there, and it puts the pieces together way, like, because when you're grabbing like different disparate pieces, it's still like a lot of information that you really can't, I mean, you
Integrate.
can sort of integrate, but it's harder. For me, it was a lot. It was really beneficial to have you walk through it and tell me the story of me.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
I love that description of it.
Yeah.
Yes, you don't need to ever pay for anything with human design. If you want
Hmm.
to, you can find out everything on your own. Um, but I do think the benefit of getting a reading from somebody who understands the whole system is that it just puts the pieces together
Hmm.
and helps people understand sort of the flow of information,
Yes.
as opposed to, right, these just disparate parts, but not quite knowing how they connect.
Hmm.
And there's always, like, I've had people who've come to me before who really know quite a lot about human design and have had other readings before, and eh, they'll come to me with really specific questions about, but I don't understand this, or these two pieces of info. I've heard
Mm.
that and I've heard that, but this is in total conflict with each other. And
Hmm.
those are always places where I'm like, okay, no. All right, there's a clear there's a clear thing here, right? Like, you're looking at two pieces of information that there's kind of a hierarchy. Like, this is
Mm.
sort of bigger or more important in your chart than this other thing, or
Right.
this may seem like it's in conflict, and it is, and it's because both things are true, but like, we can talk through the way that might play out. It's really just sort of the benefit of getting a chart reading
Hmm.
is bringing it into an integrated whole for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. that's what, yeah, that's what I'm always trying to do.
Yeah. I also have this other question that came out as you were talking about sort of people coming back to you for
Yeah,
readings. Do they ever do sort of what somebody would do with an astrologer? Like they would say, "Hey, I'm having this particular situation at work or in my love life. What is my chart? What does my chart say about that? Is it similar?"
totally.
Or...
So sometimes, yes, I have a lot of follow-up sessions. Do
Mhm.
end up looking, I hate, maybe this is because I'm not a sports person, but I don't like the word coaching.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
I'm like, well, what even is that?
Yeah.
But it can look almost like coaching, where
Yeah.
or that their people are bringing me a personal situation they're in, exactly, where they're like, this is where I am with my job, or I'm
Hmm.
in this relationship dynamic. Can you help me work this out through a human design lens?
Right.
And then that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm
Cool.
using the chart as a tool to then be a thought partner for that person with working through that particular thing, right? So
Mm.
if someone's having that sticky situation at work where they can't figure out if it's time, you know, to stay or to quit, and then I, through by looking at their chart, then get to ask them questions
Right.
and help nudge them towards the correct answer for themselves, or
Right.
for them to figure it out. It's never
Right.
me telling you,
Yeah.
this is what you should do. Um, but again, I'm a projector, and one of the one of our primary gifts is guiding other people and asking the right questions. So I feel
Hmm.
like that really is what I'm doing most of the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So there are people who come back again and again for that, where maybe
Hmm.
they had an initial chart reading with me and then a follow up where they've gotten into a deeper layer. And then they come back, every few months to talk through some particular situation of like, oh, I'm trying to work this out.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
very cool. I like that it's sort of a conversation. And I think a lot of times it's people coming to their own conclusions, but they need sort of to think through a little bit of, in the case of human design, like, okay, how does my design relate? Does that feel right for me? Okay, yeah. And then talking with somebody is helpful. So,
yeah. It's often, somebody saying, well, I'm wondering if this, and I'm like, well,
yeah.
okay, hang on, like let's break this down. Does it feel like this, or does it feel like
Mm.
that? Are you
Hmm.
just, and just probing what that thing is, and
Right.
um, yeah, and of course, it's totally dependent on the situation.
Okay, for sure.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, very cool. And then I know also you are a parent.
Yeah.
And we talked a little bit about how, if I was a parent, it would be wonderful to have like a little human manual for your child.
Yeah,
And it seems like human
absolutely.
design does that.
It really does.
Yeah.
Before I talk about parenting, can I
Yeah.
give sort of an overview of
Oh, sorry. Yes,
is that, yeah, is
please.
that okay? Great.
Yes.
So, all right. So we've already said a lot about sort of what human design is. It's basically a map of your energy system, right? You've
Hmm.
got this human body with a skeletal
Yes.
system, with a nervous system, with a circulatory system. You have an energy system, and it is unique to you. And human design gives you the map of that system. So it's the blueprint. And like I said, it also gives you the user manual. It gives you these basic, I don't want to say instructions, but strategies for how to operate in the world to best get your machine, your particular unique machine to work. So I'll just give you a little overview of the types. So then, as I get into talking about parenting, maybe some of my anecdotes will make more sense. So we have all these energy centers in our body that are people may recognize as being similar to chakras. Human design is rooted in a number of ancient systems. It's the chakra system, astrology, the I Ching, and the Kabbalah. And then there's some modern physics thrown in there too. But all of those systems have pieces that have been sort of integrated into human design. But human design is really it's an entirely different thing. It's sort of a synthesis and its own thing. Um, anyway, so based on these sort of energy centers that we have, whether we receive energy from the world around us or whether we are consistently making energy in that place, determines what energy type we fall into. So there are four main energy types for people. We've got manifestors. Manifestors are about 9% of the population. And manifestors are the initiators on the planet. Manifestors are here to, what happens is they get these urges from outside of themselves. They're like these big creative urges to start certain things. And these aren't ideas per se. They're not like mental constructs. They're just urges to do certain things. And their job is to do those things. It's to start those things. But every human design type has a strategy, which is the basic operating instruction. It's like the MO. And the strategy of the manifestor is to inform. So a manifestor gets a creative urge, right? Like the universe is sort of communicating through them. They are supposed to go do that thing, but they're supposed to tell the people who are going to be impacted by it first. So I have actually a really great, my most perfect example of a manifestor is my sister.
Mm-hmm.
I have two sisters, and one of them is a manifestor. And when she was 3, we were driving in the car, and I think we passed the airport, and she said, I want to go to France. And my parents said, how do you know what France is? And like, it was totally not an idea. It was like they did not know how she knew what France was, right? Like how she had heard about France. We didn't live in France. We're not French.
Yeah.
And it was just like this thing from outside of her where she said, I want to go to France. And she said it out loud. And that really kicked a whole chain of events into action. And starting the next year, my family moved to France, and we ended up living there on and off for many, many years. And
Wow.
it was all because the 3-year-old manifestor had an urge, and she informed everybody about it. And manifestors, they're like fire starters, right? They say things, and they have the potential to make those things into a reality.
Mm-hmm.
So, anyway, so they're full of this initiating power, and their strategy is to inform. Then we have generators. Generators are the dominant energy type on the planet. You're a manifesting generator, which is a subtype of generator. And when you combine those two together, it's about 70% of the population. So generators are full of big doing energy. Generators are the builders on the planet. They have literally built the world around us. And they have big, creative, juicy life force energy. But your strategy is to respond. Generators are here to do the things that really light them up in a physical way. The things that their gut is always leading them to things. Their gut is always communicating to them, yes, this is something I'm going to make energy to do. So the strategy is to respond. Generators are here to wait for the world to bring them things. And once they've had this positive physical reaction, yes, I want to do this thing, then they get to use their big, huge doing energy, this big, it's like they have a motor inside of their body, right? It's like, it's in the name. There's a generator, there's an energy pack, right?
Mm-hmm.
They then get to use that energy to create. So in a really oversimplified version of things, right? You've got a manifestor, the manifestors who go, oh, I have an urge. Hey guys, this is what I want to do. And then the generators get to respond. They get to, some of them are going to go, that's not interesting to me. And then there's going to be other generators that go, ooh, whoa, that's amazing. That sounds so cool. I want to be part of that. And once they are really in their correct energy, their correct alignment, they're going to bring that big doing energy and help make that reality happen, help make that manifestor project happen.
Mm-hmm.
Then we've got projectors who are about 20% of the population. And we're really the guides in the system. We, in that sort of fictional project where the manifestors had an urge and then the generators have brought their big doing energy to the project, they would then come to a projector and say, hey, can you help us with this? We think you seem like you're good at this. Can you advise? And then the projectors come in and they don't do the work themselves so much as advise other people on how to do the work and how to best use their energy. Projectors don't have consistent sacral energy the way a generator does. They don't have that built in battery pack. For us, energy really ebbs and flows. And so that makes us particularly good at seeing how other people can use their energy. So we're the guides. We understand the system and how to make things work better and work more efficiently. And we ask the right questions. But our strategy is to wait for the invitation. This one really trips people up when they first hear about it. It's very counter to what we are usually told, in the world. Waiting for the invitation, because projectors don't have consistent access to big doing energy. We operate best when people invite us into things, which means that we're not then wasting our energy, our limited energy resources on people who aren't going to listen. Right. So we're basically waiting for somebody to recognize us and say, hey, you're good at this. Right. Oh, or you seem like you know what to do here. Can you help? Can you tell me what you think? Those are invitations, right? And then we get to say, oh, is this the correct invitation for me? Okay, yeah, it is. I'm going to share my gifts with you. But what often happens is projectors can fall into a trap of chasing after people, trying to give unsolicited advice. And it ends up being a big waste of our energy. So projectors we're the newest type on the planet. I could go on forever about projectors, but that's a brief overview. And then you've got reflectors. Reflectors are relatively rare. They're just 1% of the population, and they're the mirrors for society. Reflectors don't have any energy centers in their body that are defined, which means that they are absorbing energy from the world around them and reflecting it back. So they're like our mirrors. So in an ideal world, the reflectors would really be in the center of society, and we would be looking at them to see how well we're doing, right? When the reflectors of the world are not doing well, like if a reflector in a community is sick and exhausted and underappreciated, that's a really good indication that their community is not doing well. When the reflectors are interested and surprised and happy and delighted and doing well, it's a really good indication that their community is doing well. So in our sort of oversimplified version of the world where the manifestors are, speaking an idea into existence, the generators are bringing their big building energy to make the thing happen. The projectors are guiding the process. The reflectors are telling us how we've done afterwards. Yeah, so that's a bit of an overview of the system.
Yeah, cool.
And then in terms of authority, that's the other big pillar. That's how we best make decisions. There are a number of different kinds of authority, which depend on your particular chart. Some people are designed to wait out their emotions to sort of see how they feel about something over time before making a decision. Other people are designed to listen to their in the moment gut feeling, and that's how they make decisions. Other people are designed to listen to their in the moment intuitive hits that they get. There's lots more, but that's a bit of an overview.
Oh yeah, great overview.
Yeah. So let's see. So back to parenting. You were asking,
Yeah.
how does it influence parenting?
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes a huge difference in parenting. And actually, Ra who said really explicitly, this is for kids, right? Like, it's great for us to have this as adults, right? We get to decondition, we get to sort of find our way back to ourselves.
Right.
But the really most potent use of this is for people to have to share with their kids so that kids are raised with it. And there's a whole lot less deconditioning that has to happen as a result,
Mm.
right? So instead of that manifesting generator kid being told, no, you can't quit soccer after 3 weeks and go do dance and then it's like, no, like instead of giving that kid the message that quitting is a bad thing and you have to stick with it, that manifesting generator kid is just supported in changing their mind and changing their path and doing one thing for a while and then doing another and then another. And that's just celebrated from the beginning as opposed to, labeled as, chaotic or ADHD or
Hmm.
whatever it is. Yeah. So it makes a huge difference. And I've got 3 young kids, and it's a pretty big game changer. Um, all of my kids are very different. I have a generator, I have a manifester, and I have a projector. And so they're all have really different things going on. And some of the things that are the most useful are really the most basic. I have a generator. She's designed to respond. So I give her choices. I give her things to respond to. I ask her yes or no questions and I give her options. I say, this can be as basic as on a daily basis saying, do you want this jacket or that jacket? Do you want to eat this for dinner? And when I say, do you want to eat, do you want to eat pasta for dinner? And she goes, that's her sacral response, right? Like she is doing it constantly. And so I, as her parent, just know that. And so I give her the choices as opposed to saying, what do you want for dinner? And she has no answer for that because I haven't given her anything to respond to, right? Um, but then I've got a manifester who is not designed to respond. My manifestors don't want to be messed with. They want to do their own thing. They want to be left in peace. They don't want to be, especially if they're in the middle of any kind of creative urge, they do not want to be bothered with questions. So if I didn't know that about one of my sons, it would feel really frustrating, I imagine, to say, do you want this for dinner? Do you want that for dinner? And sometimes I do that. And he just doesn't respond. This urge to respond to things is just not native to him. So instead, I ask him really open-ended questions. I might say, what do you want for dinner? Or more useful is the more oblique, well, I'm informing him. Manifestors really like to be informed in addition to their need to inform others.
Mm.
I say, okay, it's close to dinner time. I think I'd like to eat this. I'm wondering what you want to eat. And sometimes he takes the bait for that. Sometimes he has something to offer up. Most of the time he doesn't. And he's just really in his own stream of doing things. And so again, that's not a frustrating thing to me because I know it's how he's built to operate, right?
Hmm.
Instead of, it would be so easy to look at this kid and be like, hello, are you listening? Like, why aren't you engaging with me about this direct question I'm asking you? And instead, I'm like, oh, okay. This is normal. This is
Hmm.
natural for him. Um, yeah, so it can be things like that. Those are just really basic big pillars. It really changes to know who in the family has a defined emotional center or not. This is like a really big one. Some people in human design, their charts, there's an emotional center. And some people have it defined, which means they're sort of making emotional energy internally. Emotions are like a weather system in their body. They're on this sort of constant emotional wave. And for people with emotional authority, they really need to learn to feel their feelings and just embrace that they are up sometimes and down sometimes. But for about half of the world is like that. The other half of the world has an open emotional center, an undefined emotional center, which means that like that non-emotional types will say, that's in air quotes, right? Everybody has feelings. It's not that
Yeah.
people who are open emotionally can't feel at all, but it's easy to refer to them as emotional versus non-emotional. So knowing who in your family is non-emotional, like the non-emotional types in the world are absorbing emotions from the world around them. And it's quite an intense experience. These are people who are walking into the room and feeling the feelings of everybody in that room. And just knowing who in your family has emotional definition, who is emotional and who is not, is a huge game changer in clarifying dynamics. I have a really funny story from like 3 days ago. My daughter and my two of my kids are emotional. I'm also emotional. My partner is not emotional. And I had, well, originally, we've been together for a very long time. We've been together for, oh gosh, 16 years, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I had never heard him yell in until my daughter turned 3 and started having like 3-year-old tantrums. Literally, I think in 13, I think it was 13 years. In 13 years, I had never, I'm getting my math all wrong. I don't know what year it is. I don't know how long we've been together. It was well over a decade. I'd literally never heard my husband yell. And then my daughter turns 3. She starts having big emotional tantrums because she's a toddler, but also because she has emotional authority and she's built for big swings of emotion. And for my husband, it was intensely difficult. All of a sudden, for the first time, I hear him yelling. And it's like he had such a hard time with that. All of a sudden, this person who is quite calm and collected in his natural state is feeling like, whoa, what, this is not the kind of parent I thought I was going to be. Why am I yelling? Like, what is this? And it was so deeply useful to be able to say, hey, this is harder for you than it is for me because I am built for big swings of emotion and you are not. Every time she has a tantrum, it's like he's getting hit by a Mack truck of feelings. And that is an intense experience to have. He's absorbing this intense emotional energy and amplifying it, and it's not his, and it doesn't feel good. And so we built in systems where it's like, okay, our daughter's having a big old tantrum. If he's the one who's sort of on the receiving end of it, he's going to need to go outside afterwards and be by himself and release that energy. But it really allowed, it's just an example of a place where he's was able to bypass a story about I'm this reactive parent with the bad temper. And it's like, no, no,
Mm.
no. You are a person who is absorbing feelings that are not yours. And they have to go somewhere. And when they're really intense, you're going to explode them out of you because they don't belong there. Um, and just recently, a few days ago, my daughter had a big meltdown, big emotional thing. It was particularly impactful for my husband. And the next day, I said, oh, you're still hanging on to this. I said, you've got to go for a run. And so he goes out for a run. And she said, oh, where's Papa? And I said, oh, he's going on a run. She said, why? And I said, well, he had a hard day yesterday. That was hard for him. He needs to let those feelings out of, he needs to let those emotions out of his body. And she looked at me like I was crazy. And she said, what? He still hasn't burnt off the feelings from yesterday? And I was like, first of all, I love this language of burning off feelings. She came up with that, not me. And
Yeah.
that's exactly it. I said, no, he hasn't. He is really different from you. You and I and your brother, it just kind of, they come and they go. But Papa, it's different. Feelings are different for him and he has to go burn them off. He has to let them go. And she was like, huh, okay.
Love it.
But yeah. So there's just sort of stories like I have
Yeah.
an endless well of
Oh, sure.
stories like this, but I'm sort of feel like sometimes I like have my clipboard in the corner, like watching my kids being like, aha, the generator has provoked the manifester who just wants to be left alone. Like, oh, or I can see, oh, this channel playing out so clearly right now.
Mm-hmm.
So some of the useful parenting information is in the granular stuff too. Like,
Yeah.
I know that one of my kids is particularly prone to emotional disappointment or an emotional wave related to expectations. And so
Yeah.
I know to really prime that kid for what's going to happen and when their expectations might not be fulfilled. And very often that avoids a meltdown. Um, it also gets into how people best digest food, which is so useful for parents of young kids.
Mm.
Um, some people are designed, there's a whole bunch of digestion types, but there are certain things that when I talk to parents, they go, oh, wait a minute. Yeah, he does always want to do that. I thought that was so weird. And then they can start encouraging that thing instead of going, what? Like, some people are designed to eat food that is cold,
Hmm.
low body temperature. It's called cold thirst digestion. They need lots of cold liquids, and they're meant to be cooled by food. So I had a parent who was like, "Oh, my kid is always wanting to eat cold pasta, and I always thought that sounded so gross." So I'm like, "No, please, like let me heat this up for you." And I was like, "No, stop heating it up. He really does need it cold."
Hmm.
Or, parents who think, "Oh yeah, they like your digestion type, close
Yeah.
taste, right?"
Hmm.
Parents who have closed taste digestion who can really learn to tap into the natural rhythm of the seasonality of a person with closed or open taste, right? Somebody like you is going to want to eat the same thing over and over and over and over for a while, for sort of a season.
Yeah.
So instead of being flummoxed when your kid who has closed taste, who has eaten a peanut butter sandwich every day for 3 months, all of a sudden won't touch one, instead of getting confused, you just go, oh, their season has changed.
Right.
Right. And if
Yeah.
that kid, like, if you were a kid, Merrily, and
Hmm.
you really didn't want to eat a certain food, I wouldn't brand you as a picky eater. There's a natural choosiness, a natural pickiness to somebody with closed or open taste. And
Hmm.
so if you were very clear that you did not want to try the oyster, I would go, okay, she knows that oyster is not for her, right?
Right.
That is a People with closed taste know before they've put something in their mouth whether something is for them or not. So
Hmm.
instead of branding you as, non-adventurous or something, I would just accept it and
Yeah.
know that that was your personal, yourself, right? It's this
Yeah.
position of parenting the kid you have and not parenting the kid you think you should have.
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Woo. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's some revolutionary thinking, especially uh for at least um no, no shade to my parents, but like, it seems like a step ladder of like the parents of your like trying to put you into like you should do this way,
Yeah.
instead of maybe more catering catering, or like in your situation with your children, you're really thoughtful about like, oh, that's just how that kid is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You can sort of help identify this is true for adults too, right?
Yeah.
Is this a bad habit of mine? Or
Right.
is this something I should try to release? Or is this something that is native to me? And
Hmm.
sometimes it is a bad habit.
Yeah.
Sometimes, right? Like we've picked up a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
It's not everything you do is like this gift that is totally innate and native, right? But if
Yeah.
you can't figure out which is which, that's where your human design chart can really help pinpoint it. And looking at a kid too, where it's like, oh, he has this tendency to do this thing that might look weird to the outside world, but I can
Hmm.
totally correct for him.
Right.
But there are other things where it's like, oh no, we got to teach this kid how to do something differently. And that's not about his human design chart. That's just like a behavioral thing he picked up, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I like that parsing of of like the behavioral versus like, oh, this is just their chart
Yeah.
showing through them. So that's really cool.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, thanks for walking through the parenting thing there. Have you noticed any sort of themes at all across profiles? And I guess the way I was thinking about this is like, um, do you notice like maybe a manifestor, do they hold certain jobs, or they attracted to certain jobs or certain vacation spots? I don't know, something that was kind of what where I was thinking about that.
You know, there's a lot of ways to answer this question, I
Right.
think.
Yeah.
The first answer is no, is that, there are so many points in your human design chart that make
Mm-hmm.
you. There's like thousands of pieces of information here. And I don't think there's everybody really is this unique blend. So a manifester, like one kind of an ego manifester is really different than an emotional manifester.
Right.
And an ego manifester who has a defined crown and defined ajna is really different from a manifester who's just emotions and throat defined.
Mm-hmm.
Then you get into the gates, and
Right.
there's so many variations.
Yeah.
So on the surface, no, but at the same time, do I see themes that are interesting and notable that overlap over time? Yeah, like I've definitely had the experience of being with a client, and maybe they're describing a particular life situation, and I,
Mm.
oh wow, this is so reminiscent of that other manifesting generator client of mine who also has a 3-5 profile, who also has, these particular details going on. And how funny that they, or who has this channel, right?
Yeah.
How funny that they, no surprise that they've got these overlaps. But in terms of jobs, no, I don't. There's nothing in human design that tells you what you can or can't do.
Right.
And I think it's really important for people to know, especially as they're encountering this information on social media or on the internet. If you ever read a piece of human design detail, something about a post about human design, and it
Yeah.
makes you feel limited,
Mm.
or like there's something that you can do or can't do,
Right.
I would really question either the source of it or your interpretation of it.
Mm.
Um, there's no job that a generator can't have, right? There's no
Right.
job that a projector can't have. It's really about the mechanics that underlie how they do that job, right?
Mm-hmm.
So can a projector be, with their variable energy that ebbs and flows and is inconsistent, be the head of a corporation? Absolutely. Can they be president? Yeah, Barack Obama is a projector.
Mm.
Um, should they be working 12-hour days? No, that is not a healthy way for a projector to operate. So, can a projector be a photographer or an actor or a writer or a spiritual guide or a corporate lawyer? Yes, any of those things can be correct for any type. But
Mm-hmm.
if a projector is doing those jobs where they're being run ragged and run into the ground because they're trying to act like a generator who can work a 12-hour day when they're excited, that's going to be a recipe for burnout for the projector,
Right.
right? Whereas any of those jobs being done by a generator is going to have much more capacity for the doing, buzzy, making energy if
Mm-hmm.
they're really listening to their own system. They're listening to their gut and what they're excited about. Um, a manifester is very likely going to start things and not want to finish them, right? So that's going to play out whatever job they're in, where ideally they're in a position where they can use their initiating energy to start a project, and then they have people to finish it off for them. But
Right.
whether that means they're in one job for 20 years or they're moving on to a new job every time they sort of have finished their creative urge is totally dependent on the person, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I guess what I'm saying is there are a lot of themes, but none of them are so broad as to be about like this is what you're supposed to be doing in life.
Yeah.
It's really about how you're doing that thing in life. And then getting into incarnation cross and life purpose. Even those things are not, they don't point to what you should be doing. They're just going to point to a theme that's going to bubble up under
Mm-hmm.
whatever it is that you do
Right.
when you're living in alignment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Thanks for walking through that. I like the way you explain it. It's so very much of like situational and approachable. And I know I keep comparing to astrology, but I think I love astrology and I love looking at the houses, but most people I think just know their sun sign, which is fine.
Yeah.
But I think they always think, oh, if I'm a Pisces, I should be doing this field of work, right?
Yeah.
Of course, when you go into astrology and there's the different houses, that changes, like you were saying
Totally.
with how human design, there's actually these other things. I just think human design is it's more like you, for whatever reason, you could just look, it's more approachable and like makes sense in those ways than maybe astrology for the general population, like we talked about a little earlier.
Yeah.
Um,
It's
about
really practical. I
yeah,
also love astrology.
yeah,
And I think it's so cool
yeah,
and interesting and revelatory
yeah,
sometimes, but it doesn't feel practical to me most of the time.
yes, yeah,
Whereas human design is really just giving you the help to say, how do I operate best, right? And
mm-hmm,
it doesn't, there are transits in human design, right?
right,
So on any given day, um, we could talk about where the planets are moving and how the transits are affecting us.
yeah,
And that does have an influence on us. Like, or today is a third line day, today's a fourth line day. There are different energies you can work with in that day. But ultimately, like the most important thing about human design is just getting to know your strategy and your authority, right?
yeah,
How am I best supposed to make decisions?
mm-hmm,
Am I listening to my gut for all you generators out there, right? Am I
yeah,
am I doing things that my body has given me that feeling? Like, did I get an feeling?
yeah,
But I'm committed to it anyways because I thought I should. If all of, I guess, in terms of themes for everybody, if there was one message for everybody in human design, it's get out of your head, get into your body.
mm-hmm,
We're really taught that the mind is running the show and that it should be running the show. Most of
yeah,
us, that, right? Your mind is the one making decisions. And according to human design, no, it's not. It's your mind is supposed to be the passenger. Your mind thinks it's running the show. Your
yes,
mind thinks that it's driving the car,
yeah,
but it's your job to go, nope, you're in the passenger seat. So look out the window, mind. Think about
mm-hmm,
things. Get creative,
yeah,
ideate, theorize, get excited about what you're seeing.
yeah,
But your mind is not here to say turn left, turn right. Like that information lives in your body.
mm-hmm,
And when you start making decisions, tapping into the right spot, then that's where your life really starts to change.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, we're definitely, wow, we covered so much stuff and I'm so excited about it. We're definitely sort of wrapping up, but I know you kind of already shared sort of little bits and pieces of client stories, but did you have like a particular one that you wanted to share or?
I don't have one.
Mhm.
I have so many. I
I
feel like
know.
my
I know.
my favorite one of my favorite things to do is talk about the anecdotes in human design. I
Mm,
think a lot of people really benefit from hearing how chart mechanics play out in the real world, right? Where like the manifesting generator who has this experience and you see this playing out in this way, or the way this channel plays out, or this dynamic between people plays out. So I don't have one story I want to share, but I do. I guess what feels the most useful to me, or sort of makes me the happiest, is when I hear from people over and over again just that they trust themselves, right? Like I just heard this recently from a client who made some huge life changes, after getting a reading after about 2 years later, just was sort of put on the path to really harnessing their own intuitive trust in their decision making, right? And it was
yeah.
just the change that happened for this person after really getting out of their head and letting themselves trust their gut. And then over the course of a few years, coming back and saying, whoa, I made these big moves because I trusted my decision making. And that was a way that I wasn't trusting myself before. Um,
Hmm.
and, I hear that and I'm like, yes, I want everyone to do that. Like,
Oh,
just that's the best feeling. It's the best feeling.
yeah.
I have that in myself, and I just feel the huge excitement for other people when they access that.
Oh, I love that. Oh, that's such a great thing to contribute to. Yay. So do you have any either projects or events or anything that you want to let us know about? Coming up?
I no events at the moment. I'm really just doing readings and talking with clients all the time. I did just start to put myself on social media,
Oh,
which
yeah. Yeah.
was I'm sort of famously backwards when it comes to technology, and
Hmm.
like I couldn't. My story of that today is instead of being able to configure my computer to not accept FaceTime calls, I just had to text my whole family and say, "Don't call me."
Just don't do it.
I
Yeah.
can't figure out how to do this, so just don't call me.
Love
They're
it.
okay. Um, anyway, so I'm slow on the social media game, but I just put myself on TikTok.
Oh,
And
cool.
yeah, and I am mostly talking, it's mostly sharing anecdotes. It's mostly sharing stories about, all right, I saw this play out in this way today, or here's this thing that I'm noticing.
Hmm.
And a lot of those, a lot of parenting anecdotes as I observe them. But yeah, so I'm Noelle O'Reilly on TikTok.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just my full name. I don't have an Instagram yet, or I do, but there's nothing on there. You can follow along, and eventually I'll probably start
It'll be
putting.
something maybe.
Yeah, it's Noelle Human Design. Yeah,
Yeah.
eventually there'll be something there. But yeah, for the time being, I'm really just meeting with clients.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
wonderful. Yeah, definitely all of your information will be in the show notes. Everybody check it out. And do consider Noelle doing a reading with Noelle because she was amazing. So
Thank
yes. So finally, I always everybody always shares wonderful wisdom through our talks. But then I ask again,
you.
do you have any words of wisdom you would like to leave us with today?
Hmm. Wow, that's a good question. I didn't think about this ahead of time. Um, I guess really this is sort of saying what I've just been saying for this whole bit, but it's
Yeah.
saying it again is that you're different from everybody else. And this maybe sounds trite, like we're all unique snowflakes, but it's true.
Yeah.
And when you start accepting that, I mean, like really accepting that you are different and you operate differently from other people in the world, that's really life changing. And I think, before human design, why human design was so impactful for me is like I knew that in my head, right? And I knew
Yeah.
that I was raised being told I was different and wonderful and whatever. Um, but there were still just big parts of me that didn't know that. Like as I'm talking and I'm
Mm,
saying, I knew it in my head, but I didn't know it in my body on some level, right?
right.
I didn't think there were so many parts of the way that I am that I was I knew were me, but I was still just fighting them and thinking, ugh, I wish this wasn't me. I wish
Yeah.
I was just operated in this other way. I wish I could be more productive and more, move faster and be this way and that way. And leaning into my human design really just let me accept it. And so I guess my words of wisdom are just that you're different and that's wonderful. So be yourself and be free. And if you need some help to do that,
Yeah.
human design is great if it speaks to you. If
Right.
it speaks to you. And maybe there are other tools that let you do that. And whatever tools you are drawn to, go. Follow those. Like you are your own authority.
Ah, Beautifully said. I think everybody needs that reminder over and over again. So it's great.
Over and over
Over and over.
again. Over
Yes.
and over again.
I love it.
Absolutely.
Well, thanks, Noelle. I thank you so
Oh,
much for all, the reading was wonderful. This talk was wonderful. I thank you so much for your time.
oh,
So
thank you, Merrily. This is so wonderful. And actually, this, by the way, was a wonderful little human design example of I'm a projector. I'm here to wait for the invitation. And this was an invitation.
that's right. Yay. Well,
Thank you for the invitation. It's
happy.
wonderful to receive invitations. And this was an absolute delight.
Yes, thank you so
Yeah.
much.
All right. Take care.
Your support means the world to us. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please take a moment to like, comment, and share it with others who might find this content valuable. And of course, don't forget to hit that subscribe button to stay tuned for more enlightening discussions. Your engagement helps us grow, and we appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you for being a part of the Casual Temple community.